Wow. So the only reason that this show is recording in live is because I had the help of the Shane Kerwin to get me through these technical difficulties. But that's what happens when we don't have enough Nick Humphreys on the show. So I'm Jeff Blumen, and welcome to Practically Tactical, where we bring critical thinking to your everyday carry. In this show, it's like the moon's aligned, and I have one of my very dear friends and mentors, whether he likes it or not, Shane Kerwin from Personal Survival Solutions. I'll let you introduce yourself here in 1 second, but at first, I think it's important to say where we met, and that was in. I went upstairs earlier, Shane, to look through my training certificates because I save all of them, and. Of course, I didn't. I saw something shiny or Ajax, who's now milling about, and I'm like, you couldn't have done this earlier, bro. You couldn't have played with the toy earlier. And Shane was teaching an immediate action medical class that I took, which my mother says it was for my 21st birthday. She got me it was taught in Virginia, and Shane and one of his other guys, fifth group guys, and we'll talk about the special forces thing in a second because it's super cool, much more cool than me. So I promise I'll shut up in a second. And my mother took the class, and so Shane was like, they connected, and my mother leans over to me and she's like, it's kind of like one of those U-shaped tables, and there's a PowerPoint up there, and it was very hands-on, but also there were some very graphic pictures. And she leans over at one point, and she's just like, when you walked in, she says, "Oh, he's very handsome." And the other thing she said, which something funny that she said, because that was serious, was she leans over and it was like somebody with their leg like caboodled out, and had a tourniquet on, and my mother's like, "Jeffrey, I'm gonna throw up." So that's where we met. But Shane, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll pry and dig.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds good, Jeff. And love your mother. It was so fun meeting you and her. And when we were up recently, getting to see her again and hang out. So tell her hello, like I always say.
She said hello to you today, by the way.
Oh, good.
I said we're going to do the show. She says, "Oh, tell Shane I say hello."
Oh, good. So I'm Shane Kerwin, Doc K. I got it up on the screen because that's how you first met me. Because back at that day, I was still active duty special forces. So I kind of had to stay a little bit low key with what I was doing since I was still operational in that. But so a little bit about me. I did 24 years in the Army, 16 of them in special operations up at 5th Special Forces Group up at Fort Campbell. I was kind of one of those anomalies that I stayed there the whole time. I was really lucky. First in my career, when I got to a team, it wasn't unusual to have guys on team for 15, 16, 17, however long years, because they were trying to get away from going to the schoolhouse where people, did an instructor role and taught. And so it started changing quite a bit. You only got about 3 or 4 years. And then you would go down, you'd be in an instructor role down at Fort Bragg or one of the associated schools. And then you would come back kind of as a senior guy. I just really lucked out to spend my whole time there. Prior to that, I went into the Army in 1993, August of 1993, and went into the infantry initially, and then went over to Korea. And that was a pretty fortunate event for me to go over there because my dad had been in Korea when he was in the Army. And so going back there was kind of neat. We had something more to talk about. And I ended up getting selected to go to the Joint Security Area, the JSA Scout Platoon up in Panmunjom, Korea. And so we were the most northerly deployed unit, American unit in Korea at the time. And what we did is we were conducting counter-infiltration patrols in the DMZ. We had a 4 kilometer by 4 kilometer area. And we would go up there and patrol, and we would switch off with the Koreans that were there, the Katusa soldiers. And so it was really unique and neat because, we carried live ammo. We did these counter-infiltration patrols to keep the North from infiltrating into the South, acted as a quick reaction force if something happened up in the actual DMZ, or excuse me, where the actual military demarcation line is, where they signed the armistice agreement in 1953 and all that. So a lot of VIPs would come up there, And one of the other things that the unit did is they had tour guides that would take these VIPs up on tours and show them where the armistice agreement was signed, some other significant events that happened up in that area. So we would act as a quick reaction force also. Once I got done with that after my year there, which was awesome, I came back and I went to airborne school down in Fort Benning, Georgia. One of the 3 toughest weeks in the Army, as they say. Really, they can teach you everything in a couple days, but they make you run around and do all kinds of stuff. And so I got done with that. And then I went to the 82nd Airborne Division, where I was picked up in a scout platoon or a reconnaissance platoon again. So we worked in small 4 to 6 man teams, depending on what the mission was. And we provided intel and that to the battalion, getting out front of them during whatever their missions were. So I did that up until 97. And while I was there, I was fortunate. I got to go to the U.S. Army Ranger School down in Fort Benning. And I was very new. I had just gotten back from Korea and kind of happened into a slot and ended up down in Fort Benning. I'd only been back in the States about a month, a little bit more after I got out of jump school.
And how old were you when you did went to Ranger training?
Let's see. I was like 22, 23, something like that.
Just kind of curious. All right.
Yeah, when I went down there, because I went in a little bit older. I quit after my junior year of college, decided I wanted to go in the Army. So I was just a little bit older than most people that went straight out of high school. So ended up down to Ranger School. Didn't really know how I got there because it was all kind of a whirlwind and being a young private. So I ended up going straight through. And at that time, they still had 4 phases. So they had the Benning phase, which was broke down into 2 parts. They had the desert phase, which was out of Fort Bliss, Texas. And then we came back and went into mountain phases up in Dahlonega, Georgia, and then down to Florida phase in Ranger School. Desert phase was too expensive, they said at the time. So the day that I graduated Ranger School was the day that they deactivated the desert phase of Ranger School. And who would have known that's where we ended up going again. So I came back from Ranger School. Nobody knew who I was. I called back and talked to my assistant team leader, and I was like, "Hey, this is Private Kerwin. Just graduated Ranger School." He's like, "Who?" So I went back and spent the time there, and then I had a short break in service in, let's see, I would have been 97. I went back to school for a little bit, and after about 15 months, I decided, I'm going to go back in the Army. And that was at the time where I was like, you know what? I want to go to Special Forces Assessment and Selection, just because I don't want to be one of those guys 20, 30 years down the road in the VFW going, I could have done that, but, I didn't. And so I was like, even if I go and fail, at least I went and did it. And so I joined back up, which ironically was harder for me to rejoin than it was to get in initially. And, I'd had some medical stuff prior to car accident and injuries that I had to get waivers to initially get in the Army. And so, but it was even more difficult to get back in. And, but I ended up back at Fort Bragg, and I went back to the same scout platoon, the same scout team, just a different position, and picked up right where I left off. And so continued on there for a little bit. I went to selection and assessment in, I believe it was 99. And at that time, because this kind of changed and evolved, but it was 3 weeks long. So I got through selection, I got selected, and when you get done in selection, you're known as a roster number. So no names or anything like that. Very, very little information. They give you the task conditions, and they don't even give you the standards. They give you the task to do, and then you go and do it because they're looking for physical attributes, mental attributes, psychological attributes. And so when you get done, they start calling roster numbers, and they say, okay, if we called your roster number, get into this formation over here. And so we get done, and the formations are pretty close, and we've been whittled down quite a bit at that point. And so you're standing there, you're not sure if you've been selected or not, because they're, about the same. And so they say, hey, this formation, go ahead and go in the classroom there. Congratulations, you've been selected. And so we went in the classroom, and they sit you down, and they have a folder there with your name on it, which of course you don't get to open until they tell you to open it. So there's all this anticipation. And I kind of had an idea. Just like a lot of guys, I wanted to be an 18 Bravo, which is a weapons sergeant, because it's the shortest course and I like guns. So, but I know I'm a relatively intelligent human being. And so I figured I'd either be a Delta, which is Special Forces medic, or a combo guy, an 18 Charlie. And so they tell us to open it up, and it was 18 Delta. And which in retrospect, I'm really glad I got to do, because not everybody gets to do medicine, but every SF guy gets to shoot guns all the time. And so I embarked on that journey, which was about 2.5 years. By the time I got done, between the qualification course, the medical part of the qualification course, which is about a year if you don't recycle, and then language school and SEER school, the Survive, Evade, Resist, Escape. And so I finally got done with that in 02, and got to my team in September of 02 and checked into 5th group, and went to a Halo team. I went to ODA 5A4, and it's confusing because they changed numbers. They went from 3 numbers to 4 numbers, and now they're back to 3 numbers again. So, but I ended up on that team, and almost from the get-go when I walked in, I ended up down in 5th group's sniper school. I went through that again as a relatively new guy, kind of going, how the heck did I get here? 6 weeks later, I graduated from that. During the course, they told me that I was going to go down to Fort Bragg and challenge the level 1 course, which I was so new to SF that I thought I was going for a sniper competition. So I got down to Fort Bragg, and they used to do where you challenged the course, where you did all the must-pass events. So instead of them being cumulative, like maybe you might do 5 stalks and various things for an overall score that you had to achieve at the end, you just got 1 shot with each of them. And so it was over 10-day period. And
it's kind of like testing out of like a language class or something, right?
Yeah, Jeff, that's exactly what it is. And so ended up getting through that. They did away with the challenge course, from what I understand, shortly after that, because they said, they were like, well, you guys, it doesn't really count if you make it through the challenge course, because you didn't go through the full 2.5, 3 months, whatever the course was at the time. And I argued a little bit, saying, well, how is it not? We just went and passed all your tests, and we're successful. So, but that's neither here nor there. I ended up passing, and came back. We took a little bit of Christmas vacation, Christmas leave, and got back to the team room in January 03. And that's when we packed up to go to Kuwait to eventually invade Iraq. So during my 16 years at 5th group, overall, by the time I retired, I think it's somewhere like 11 deployments, 8 of them in the global war on terror. I did the invasion of Iraq, what ended up being OIF 1, OIF 2, OIF 3. And then later on, as I retired, right before I retired, I got a letter saying that, oh, you were also in the campaign for OIF 4. So I get to put another little doohickey on one of my participation awards there. And so we were pretty fast paced at that time. And I spent about 4.5 years on that team. And I was gone about 10 months every year between deployments, train ups, individual schools, things like that. So I wanted to take a little bit of time off. So I went down to that sniper school, 5th group sniper school, and I talked to the NCOIC, the non-commissioned officer in charge. And I was like, hey, don't do anything or tell anybody. I said, I'm just, kind of testing the waters. Do you guys need any instructors? And he was like, yeah, actually we do. And we've never had an 18 Delta medic as a sniper instructor down there. And so I told him, I was like, hey, don't do anything. Let me talk to my chain of command first, so nobody thinks I'm going behind their back. And they were very supportive. And I talked to them and then told him to go from his side, and it met up at the group sergeant major, and they released me to go over there. And I spent more time than most people do down there. I was there for about 7 years, just kind of some family things and various stuff going on that kept me there. And the unit was really good and protected me while I was there. Because after my 3 years, they could have sent me to Fort Bragg or somewhere else. So they kept me in house, and really enjoyed it. I started out as a regular instructor cadre. I ended up being the senior cadre at different times. I was the non-commissioned officer in charge, running the whole course. I was only an E7 at the time, a sergeant first class. So it was a master sergeant billet or an E8 billet. And so if somebody came in that was qualified, I'd bounce back down to senior instructor, and then they'd come and take over, and then I'd bounce back up if they left. One of the cool things when I was down there, and I'm pretty proud of, aside from, helping with the other instructors redesign the course, one of the things we were able to do is extend the course another week to make it 7 weeks long. And so that's considered level 2 course. It's done in-house at the particular groups. And then the level 1 course is the main one down at Fort Bragg. Now, when I was there, it was referred to as SOTIC, the Special Operations Target Interdiction Course. They've since changed it. Fort Bragg changed from SOTIC to SIFSIC, which is the Special Forces Sniper Course. And from what I understand, I know 5th group at least, but the other level 2 courses also changed to SIFSIC. It's just SIFSIC level 2.
It's kind of hard to say.
It is. And I'm kind of old school. I like the SOTIC, and I always thought that it kind of differentiated us from Fort Bragg because the courses used to parallel each other, at least 5th groups and Fort Bragg's. But now they're vastly different courses. And that's just speaking from, my time in. I've been, retired now almost 6 years. So, and I know those courses change and develop with, new conflicts and new after actions and things that they get. So they probably changed since I've been there, but at least at the time they were vastly different courses. So I thought that the different names differentiated us, but nobody cared what Shane Kerwin thought. So, I thought I was going to actually retire out of there. And just because the amount of time that I had in, so I was up to about 19 years in the Army. And I was wanted to get operational again, and I didn't think I was going to get promoted, so I actually went over and talked to one of the specialized companies that we had in the unit, and had a job there. And the day after I took the job, I got promoted. So I made E8, I made Master Sergeant, so I couldn't take that job, but it was okay. And so I ended up going operational. I went back to 3rd Battalion. I was always a 3rd Battalion guy. I started out in Bravo Company, 3rd Battalion, and then migrated when I got promoted to Charlie Company, 3rd Battalion. And so I spent a year as a company operations sergeant. So right underneath the company sergeant major, the E9, I was the senior enlisted guy of the company. And so there were 6 teams under us, and we did a couple deployments there. It worked out really well for me, especially on the train and equip Syria to the Kingdom of Jordan trip that we did when we set that up. So I got kind of the pick of the teams, and I got to go be an operations sergeant or a team sergeant for a ODA, an Operational Detachment Alpha, which is what the teams are. And I took 5333, which is now back to 593, but I got that pick of the team. I did a couple deployments there and got to do my team sergeant or operations sergeant time. And then it was time to retire because I was over 20 at that point. So do you have a question, Jeff? Or
Well, I always have questions.
Yes, I know.
Nick, my boyfriend, has taught me not to interrupt people.
Oh, well, you're doing very well.
Thank you. Oh my God, it's so hard. So when you were in Jordan, and you said that you were doing an ODA, or you're part of an ODA, then you're going with the guys that you're training, that you trained to go fight, as opposed to just training them. You were back in an action type role, or a fighting. I don't know the phrase, but.
Yep. No, I get where you're going with it. So my first trip over, so the way that it's set up, the team level is a SFODA, so an A team. Okay. Just like the TV show is named after. And then on the company level, it's the B team. And then as you go to battalion level, which is the next level higher, then it's the C team. And so I started out as the B team operations sergeant, which is actually a senior E8 position. And on the first trip to Jordan. And that's where we set up the whole program when it came down that, hey, we're going to, train the Syrians. We're going to do this train and equip program. But it didn't exist. So, or at least not in the form that it ended up taking. So we did that, and then after that trip, when we came back, I went to an ODA as a team sergeant, being the senior enlisted guy on the team. And yeah, then I had a detachment commander, I had a team warrant, but really the team sergeant, the operations sergeant, he's the guy that kind of runs everything. And so, we're responsible for all operations, training the team, et cetera, et cetera. So on the next trip over to Jordan, we actually took the training element there and, ran with that part. So it was a lot of fun. I come back, and I had gotten one more trip after that. And then at that time, I was pretty much done. I was at, going up almost 23 years. And so I put my retirement paperwork in, and I was like, it's a young man's game. I'm not young anymore, and so it was time to step away. And so I did that. As I was going through the retirement process, I had about a year, and that's when Personal Survival Solutions came up. With the encouragement from Craig Douglas of ShivWorks, who I know you are good friends with.
I have. Wow, I actually unmuted myself at the right point and didn't just talk. I have the 1911, the 1911 right here.
Excellent.
As well as 20 other fucking guns on my. I was trying not to cuss, but you got to let one slip.
Well, every once in a while. We're adults. We're adults.
Yeah. Well, you're an adult. I'm a man child, but whatever. Well, come on.
I think that it could be debated on my side. So.
Yeah. So you said Craig had helped push you to do Personal Survival Solutions.
Yep, Craig did. Paul Gomez did. And so I did it. I put it together, got the company, the LLC going, and started working some things. Callie, worked website and design, logo and all that. Which had since changed from the beginning. We had a different logo. The website was different. It's changed now and morphed into something else as we grew as a company. But so I did that, and then we were extremely fortunate. Barrett reached out to me as I was going through the retirement process, and I was familiar with the Barrett company, the Barrett family, and some people that worked there. And they said, we heard you're retiring. You had this business. Would you be interested in contracting for us and teaching the long range for the 50 cal, for the M107 and the M82? And of course,
I fired one once.
Did you?
I fired one once, but it was at like 75 yards. It was literally to fire it into a berm, and then you could say, well, right now, like I'm saying that I fired one once.
Well, so you did it.
It was cool. And
it is very cool. It's very cool. And so we grabbed that contract and ran with that for about a year, which was really neat. So we were teaching, the long range stuff with the big guns, and going out to Raton, New Mexico, Blakely, Georgia, and running around doing that. And so, go ahead. No, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, well, I kind of interrupted your train. So you helped out with Barrett's classes. And I really want to get into too, like your company, because I think you're overly humble. For example, you're like, well, okay, let me rewind it a little bit. Now I'm going to be host man.
Okay, be host man.
Everybody's like, oh shit, what's going to happen? So what was you used a phrase when I was down taking your precision rifle classes. And by the way, I probably should open with that. I wanted to have Shane on as a guest and talk about the courseworks that I just took under him as a student. Precision rifle, or intro to precision rifle 1, precision rifle 2, correct?
Long range. You're close.
Now I've gotten myself confused. What did I take? Intro to long range.
Yep. Intro to long range 1, long range 2.
How did I fuck that up?
That's okay.
Whatever. We just go live. And I was so blown away, but I'm going to be doing a whole separate episode of my after action report, my AAR, on the courseworks, because you'll hear. I mean, put it this way to whet your palate, there, viewers. I went in with high expectations, and I was blown the fuck away by these classes and by Shane. I mean, I was so like, put it to you this way: I've trained with a whole lot of people, as people, viewers, listeners, etc., know, and friends that watch the show. It was oftentimes it's a privilege training under various different people, and it was a fucking honor being able to train under Shane, who, and this leads me into a question. So tell me about the sniper locker, because and by the way, if I sound kind of weird, it's not because I actually haven't had a drink in almost 3 years. It's because I've had a fractured tooth removed, and I've got a fucking suture in my mouth dangling because it was supposed to have dissolved by now. And so it's really hard not to play with. And then also I got this, fucking thing. Anyway, so you went all over the world training various different special operations groups how to snipe.
Yeah, it was mostly, fifth group. I stayed there, but I did deploy while I was in the sniper locker. And so, going back, what is a sniper locker? So, fifth special forces group has that level 2 course that I referred to earlier. It's in the old stockade on Fort Campbell. That's where our offices are, and that we worked out of. Originally, it was just us and one other committee. Now they have a whole advanced skill company that's down there, but we always just refer to it as the sniper locker. What you find a lot of times is
it's a cool fucking name, guys. Stick with it.
Yeah. Everybody knows it is the locker, and then whichever you're talking about, the sniper committee, the sniper locker, or even the dive guys, their offices that are in the separate location, they call it the dive locker. So it's just, where we had our offices, where we stored our stuff, where we taught the classes, where we staged out of when we were going to the training areas or the range or what have you. But so fifth group being a level 2 course, as far as my understanding goes, we have been and I say we, I was there, not anymore, but that particular course had been the longest standing course that had been there. So there's very loose guidance on a level 2 course. If you look in the level 1 sniper manual, and it's based off of the commander's requirements of what you need. It can be as short as 2 weeks long, as long as you meet the commander's requirements, and then area of responsibility specific, so AOR specific things. Ours at the time when I first went, it was 6 weeks long. We extended it to 7 weeks long. I believe the other special forces groups are similar in length now. But we didn't always have a lot of interaction with those guys just because everybody's all over the place. They've got different area responsibilities. They're spread out across the country. And so they at one time had tried to get all the committees together so we could have some commonality across the board. It never really happened. And so, we just kept doing our thing. We would interact with Fort Bragg in the level 1 course. We would interact with snipers from the unit that would come back from, downrange deployments, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, various places that we were operating at the time, and try and get after actions reviews for them for sniper stuff so we could integrate that into the course, so we could be recent relevant and as realistic as possible, so we could share and update these new TTP, so techniques, tactics, and procedures, to use a military term. And so we could stay relevant for what was going on there, because, at the height of Iraq, when I was down at the sniper locker, guys would come through the course, they'd get done with their 6 or 7 weeks, they would go back to their team, they'd do a train up, and they'd be, in Iraq, and they could be using the stuff. And it could, if we didn't do our jobs, it could mean, that they come home in a body bag or injured, or teammates injured, things like that. So we took it extremely serious. We tried to stay as up to date as we possibly could. It was a very good time. Probably one of the best jobs that I had in SF, aside from being on a team. I was very fortunate to be there for the period, but then for the length of time I was there.
And with So, having going back a little bit to what I said of like having the honor of training under someone that has gone all over the world training with, and as well as fighting, like using these techniques. Craig says that training with some people for certain things is like, with one instructor, for example, not just one that I have in mind, but some instructors where it's like, you're learning how to have sex from virgins. That ain't the case here, so it was just like having to the ability, the privilege of training under someone and who has such vast, up to date, proven teaching techniques and whatnot. And like, for example, with me, when I went down and this will be in my after action report, it is report. It's not review, right? It's after action report, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
For some reason, it sounded weird in my mind. It's kind of like if you stare at a word too long and you're like, that's not fucking right.
You can say review too. You can use anything you want, Jeff.
See, that's why you're one of the voices in my head right now, because I'll think of like some either self-deprecating or weird thing, and I'll have your voice come in and be like, "Oh, that's all right," Everybody needs to, key their own car occasionally. But is to and walking into the class, the precision rifle, long range rifle.
There you go. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I mean, I got to write this shit down. And I'll get to, sorry, I'm getting all excited right now. Was I wanted to see how and if the skills that you teach or try to impart on a shooter are different in trying to train or training private citizens, as opposed to, super cool looking dudes with relaxed grooming standards. I've always wanted to say that. I think I said it to you before.
Yeah, I like it.
Cool. Who are like, fucking America's warriors. And if you would be able to, as instructor Shane Kerwin, to be able to, be relatable and have a, TTPs or POI to actually support me as a shooter,
Sure.
And what I came away with was masterful teaching. Fucking masterful. And I've been at ranges, not so much in classes, but kind of hanging out where people were like, quote unquote, like tip of the spear type dudes. And I'm like, we don't really kill people and break things over here. Like, that's not our mission. Is to go home to our loved ones at the end of the night, and similarly the military as well. But killing like that. When people start using that kind of military framework, which is 100% applicable, given, as Gary says, poor accuracy has repercussions both here and overseas, right? And I'll get to my question, I suppose, is, how does Shane Kerwin, the instructor, teaching, rifle work to me, how to hit little things at distance, which I'm sure remarkably challenging. How does it differ necessarily with the private citizen to somebody that's about to go on deployment? Like, what are the differences and or similarities with that?
Sure. So, to kind of back up, and to go back to the business stuff, as far as, our business is one of the first things that I did when I decided to start the business is, I sat down and I wrote a mission statement, which is very military, but it's, I think, appropriate if you're starting a business. Why are you starting it? What are you going to do? And part of that is me looking at what demographic did I want to impact. And I think that's an important thing for guys, especially getting out of the military. And, I've talked to several different guys that are getting out and they want to get into the training community and do something. And I said, the first thing you got to do, in my opinion, is, pick your demographic. Who do you want to impact? And for me, I wanted to impact just the regular armed citizen. And, I refer to them as armed citizen because, they've stepped down that path. They have a firearm. They want to protect themselves, protect people that they care about. And so I think referring to them as an armed citizen is important. And so that was who I wanted to impact. as opposed to, and there's nothing wrong with this. So let me preface it, what I'm about to say with, there's nothing wrong with this if you want to do that, but I didn't want to get out and teach the exact same way that I did when I was in the military, because there are things that aren't applicable. And the way that I would do things now, if say I had a military or law enforcement unit approach me, I might train them a little bit different. Not in the, application of the fundamentals of marksmanship, whatever system we're using, because that's the same across the board, but just the methodology, the way that I teach them. Because, when we look at military folks, and especially say you take an SF team, for example, they've been through a selection process and they've been picked for certain physical, mental, and psychological attributes. And so when you look at, guys on the team, they're very similar, across the board as far as what they can do. And so when I teach them, the methodology might be, I want you all to do it this way, because we want commonality with that team. So everybody knows exactly what everybody's doing, where their gear is stored on their kit. But then you jump out in with the armed citizen that I teach.
Like me, who I'm like, can I run back to the car and grab my ammo?
Yes. Yeah.
And that didn't actually happen, but may as well
have. But it does happen. Or they show up on the line without their rifle or pistol or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I've been that guy, and I've been in that class where I'm next to the guy. So yeah. I get it.
But the thing is, if you look at the people that come to our classes now, you might have anywhere from a 12 or 13-year-old kid on up to somebody in their 70s and everything in between. And so their ability to do things one way is extremely difficult. And so, oh, good. I'm glad you're back. I lost you there for a second. Oh, I don't have any volume on you, Jeff.
I said it had to do with Ajax, but now he's back on his post.
Oh,
I was like, he's trying to get that's my cat, who, by the way, has a crush on Shane's wife. It's his first crush. It is hysterical. It is the funniest
home wrecker.
I'm like, Ajax. And here's the thing, though. Ajax is a very handsome cat, but now he's rubbing against my leg because it's just, anyway. I should send pictures of just like how sad Ajax was when you guys left. I'm like, bro, sorry, man, but she's just not that into you.
Yeah. But spoken for.
But anyway, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole because it'll take 20 minutes to explain how fucking funny it was. Yeah. So you're talking about training the armed citizen.
Yeah.
Go right ahead, sir.
So when you look at, the demographic that we have in classes, they span everything, from younger kids to older people, different levels of physical fitness, flexibility, mobility. And so when I look to train them, we're very principle and concept based. And if we stay within things that are tactically viable, these principles and concepts that meet an end state, which is define success for that person, I don't really care how you do it. So when I train them and I'm showing them a certain thing, I'll just use a proactive, or what most people call a tactical reload, just because it's an easy example. So I show about 4 or 5 different ways to do it. Okay. Because let's face it, none of us have invented any of this stuff. It was invented, 100, 125 years ago. It's just been passed along, or some people, find something, recodify, put their name on it, and it's the new latest and greatest thing.
Cycles or recycles, something falls out because other people say it doesn't work, and then it gets recycled back because it's like, oh shit, it does work, or something. The tactical fucking cycle.
Yeah. And so I'm like, why shouldn't I show you these different techniques? And then I'll tell people, pick one. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to build an individual protective system around them that's unique to them and their attributes. And so I think it's a disservice when you get up there as an instructor and go, hey, this isn't the only way, it's my way. Give it a try. If it doesn't work for you, discard it, at the end of training. Because like I said, what I can do, you can't do, and vice versa. And so, I like to show these different things, and so they can build that individual system. So looping it kind of back around, because we started off with, how do we apply the long range classes as an armed citizen as opposed to that as the military, a military sniper. And I started looking at it as, and probably one of the reasons, Jeff, that you're confused, because I think we had this conversation when we were together last time, is I've been considering changing it from the long range series, to precision rifle. And because I think that might be a better take on it, but I don't know. Jerry's still out. But so how can I take this precision long range marksmanship and apply it to the armed citizen? And so, I try and frame it at the beginning of class, and like, how does this fit into your system? Everybody has to do an individual needs analysis when it comes to training and who they go with. So how do you see it fitting in? And one of the ways that a lot of people that come take the class, how they apply it is in hunting scenarios. We're in the great state of Tennessee. I'm a hunter. There's a lot of people that like to deer hunt, and so they take those principles and concepts that we teach in the long range class, and then they apply them to hunting here in Tennessee. But it really can be applied to however you want to build and see this system. But the way that I train it is, again, except for the real base stuff. I mean, the application of the fundamentals of marksmanship is pretty much the same across the board. It doesn't matter what system you're using, whether it's a pistol, a carbine, a shotgun, a long gun. We might emphasize different fundamentals, but they're still the same. And what's probably the biggest difference between what I do now in the class that you took and what I did in the military is my style of teaching to how to get it across. Because if I was to have a group of special forces guys that were out there and we were doing sniper stuff, my demeanor and my methodology of teaching and the way that I talk to them is vastly different than the way that I spoke to y'all when we were doing the class. And all the different people that we had in there. I didn't yell at anybody. I didn't really make too much fun of anybody. Where with those guys, it's a little bit different to sometimes get the point across. So the POI, or what we teach generally is the same. It's just how I teach it is a little bit different. Does that kind of makes sense?
Yeah, and so also what I'm taking away is it's not necessarily about, we'll say, teaching snipers, SF snipers, or special operations people elsewhere. Although I guess it may be a little different if you're elsewhere. I don't know. With making fun just to make fun of, or yell just to yell. It's how you need to communicate to get the point across to get people to actually perform.
Yep. And then it's how they employ it, what they're going to do with it. Which is
that information. You mean like being yelled at or
no, like the techniques. Like shooting. What are they going to end up doing? What's their end state? What's defined success for them? It's a completely different thing for that military guy, for say that special forces troop that's going to go to Iraq, how he's going to use it, as opposed to the armed citizen that's either going to use it for, say, to be a better hunter and to be able to harvest an animal ethically, or enroll it into or encompass it into their system, but also understand the legal ramifications for where we are right now. Because I don't think any of us can articulate and justify why we took a 500-yard shot.
You really didn't like them.
Yep. How were they a threat to us, and can we articulate ourselves in a court of law with a jury of our peers? So there's that difference also. So like I said, the big thing that I wanted to do is I just really wanted to take my experiential base from the military and from the things that I was doing concurrently in the armed citizen realm as I was in the military, and take all that and roll it into this company and hit that demographic of the armed citizen, the person that they're just looking to come and take a class, build an individual protective system, be able to take care of themselves, take care of the people they care about, be a good member of the community, and live their lives and be happy, be not paranoid, but be prepared. And if something did happen, be able to take care of themselves and be able to go home at night and live with themselves.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was so impressed with, and I was actually thinking after we had this I guess moment, teacher trainee moment, was wow, like I wouldn't have done what you just did, and I would have been wrong for not doing it. And so what I mean by that is, Ajax, bro, I'll feed you in a minute. So I was shooting and we were having to do math and calculations, which,
it's hard.
Numbers, what do they mean? Right. And I started to get frustrated. And also I'll talk about my experience with like just shooting on day 1 versus day 3. So the intro to long range through 1 and 2, that was the 3-day block of course of instruction. So I was starting to get kind of frustrated, not pissed yet, but frustrated enough that I was like, I wanted spoon-fed. Mommy, fucking tell me what to do, And so you came over and you're like, hey, so what's going on? In your typical super nice demeanor, which I have a question about too.
Okay.
People hear it, the question. And you're like, and I was like, I don't know, like fucking rifle bullets. They're like not over there with the thing that I'm trying to hit. And so you're like, okay, well, let's work through it. And so I started doing the math, which was not that complicated. I was just frustrated and being an asshole to myself. And so one thing also that you said was, this is no place for self-deprecation. You said that, and I don't know, was that the exact phrase that you used? There's no,
it was pretty close. I probably said something like no self-deprecating talk.
Yes. Sorry to blast your eardrums, but yeah, it was no self-deprecating talk, which was interesting because I heard it. So I was like, how genius is that just in general? Because that can be a fucking spiral,
Sure.
And especially for people, and I've gotten a lot better at it through modern psychopharmaceuticals and lots of talk therapy.
Yeah.
And so I really like that. That was another kudos to you, I think, as an instructor. But, I basically looked at you and I started to do the math, and I was getting more and more fucking frustrated and dialing in my turret and adjusting stuff. And then I kind of like, and as an instructor, I've experienced this from a student, the give up look.
Sure.
And you said, work through it.
Yep.
And it was funny. It was kind of like in one of those movies where there's boxing, like $1 Million Baby or fucking Rocky or something, where they're like, they find their inner strength and they go and they beat the guy, and I was forced to work through it, which I did. And that is what we want to do as instructors. And I was thinking, and the reason why that was such a mental timestamp, as I like to call them for me, was like, damn, as an instructor, would I have done that, or would I have given it to the person, or given them more than I should have? And I'm like, wow, I would have given it to them. And that's not the right answer, in my opinion. So that was really, and I'm like, wow, that is exactly. So when we talk about, instructors that we wish to emulate, especially in certain areas, maybe I want to, be Craig for like when he goes, lets the fucking Evo go longer than it should, with certain people. But as far as like not giving it to somebody, I was like, that's what I want to emulate. That's what I want to be able to do, to let them work through it, because then I'm not being a fucking hypocrite when I say, which I don't really like using this. I've been with a training company that was always like, I'm not going to be there for your fight. Your fight's going to be, what I'm talking about and stuff. Right. But anyway, where it was like, I'm not going to be there for your fight. Well, okay, we can either yell about that, or I can just force someone to work through a fucking problem to find a solution that's acceptable to give whatever, results need to be given, whether that's hitting something at 300 yards that's like this big, or look further or closer or whatever, or performing the malfunction clearance. And they're just like, God damn it. And they look at you like, help me fix this.
Yeah.
So that was a huge takeaway for me. So there.
Well, and the thing is, Jeff, it's a true statement. I'm not going to be there for your fight, whatever that is. but you're in training.
Right.
What's the whole point of training? You're there to learn new skill sets and or to, refine skill sets that maybe you've gotten before you did earlier in the class with that coach or mentor. And I think, as we go through as we start out as instructors, and then after we kind of get that base foundation for people and they come back and they take other classes, we kind of migrate out from that instructor role into a coach. And then eventually we're a mentor, and we kind of bounce back and forth to these, but they're all interrelated. But when you're in training, the person that you're coming to train with should be in one of those roles. And that gunfight or what you were having, it's a problem. I tell people all the time, I'm like, a gunfight is just a problem. It's a problem for us to solve. Now, granted, guns are involved and there's deadly consequences, but it's still just a problem, just like everything else that you face during the day. When you're in training and you're in that controlled environment and you start having a problem for whatever it is, you're going crazy with the turrets. And I had to do that because you did that.
And that's what it is.
Well, it is, but
if you dial it, just spin it. That's what I learned from the class.
Just do the thing.
Free spin it. It'll be fine.
Those are the Jimmy Whompers. That's a technical term. But, if I don't help you work through that problem, you're not going to learn the skills. I can't do it for you. So, saying, hey, work through the problem. Take a deep breath, look around, make a decision.
That is very personal meaning to me. Nowadays, since I train with Shane, but it's so fucking great. It's so great. I can't wait to drop that on someone. And more than likely like a non-training capacity, like they can't figure out what kind of ice cream to get.
Sure.
And, but so then another question, and if you still don't have an answer, but I was asking Shane, and Shane is such a nice guy and approachable and like human. Like he is the epitome of instructor that you want to feel comfortable asking a question to, which is the greatest of all compliments, because that's how the fuck else are people going to learn if they don't feel comfortable coming up to the instructor and asking them a question. So creating, for lack of a better phrase, like a safe environment for learning. And that's one thing that I am just ruthless about creating. Like we have to create that, because if we are not, if it becomes like this, oh, well, this person's ego and gun is bigger than this person's. And I fucking hate that. My days of doing that, well, not doing it, but being around it and being part of it are like long over. How does, and you don't have to answer this on the air or whatever, but so how do you flip the switch and go from, incredibly nice, somebody that I couldn't even imagine yelling, to a special forces, sniper and going into war and stuff? And does it become, and tell me if that's an unfair question.
No, it's an okay question.
Is it a flipping the switch? Is it a, like, how do you, say what psychological difference people talk about? Oh, well, it's about the person next to me, or it's the job. But that, I don't know, is there, how many layers down you want to pull back to figure that out? But there, the psychological, and the reason that I ask it isn't like some kind of weirdo thing. It's more like the psychological component of what we're doing, whether it's probably 70% of jiu-jitsu is psychological, shooting probably damn near the same thing. And then fighting, I mean, if we can gather something from that we can then chew on and maybe get some sleep cycles on that you say, maybe that's how we can help our viewers, and also fucking me help myself.
Sure. So I think it's kind of twofold. As far as the military goes, Jeff, uh, well, number one, we're tested, for all that stuff. But there's some very defined things there, regardless of what your personality is. You've now made it through this selection process. And, there's a saying within special forces that, once you go through selection and the qualification course, you're not done. Every day is an assessment, and there's a lot of truth to that. Uh, you have to think about it that way, is you are being assessed by your peers and your leadership every single day you're in that unit. And so, uh, but with that, then, anytime we do anything, we have a mission, we have a very clear, well, most of the time, we should have, a very clear mission statement. We should have a defined rules of engagement. Uh, all that stuff is kind of spelled out. So, when you do go downrange to, Iraq or Afghanistan or Syria or wherever the case may be, and you might have to engage somebody, those things are clearly defined, like, hey, you can just protect yourself, or this is what the rule of engagement is. And so, it kind of takes that out of the equation. It eases your mind a little bit that if they do this, I can answer with lethal force. And so, tapping into uh, um, that inner beast or whatever you want to call it, where, say I'm a nice guy, but when do I get angry? Uh, it does take a lot, but there's clearly defined lines in the sand for me. So then if we go to, on the armed citizen side, just like you said, the psychological or the mindset piece, I think, is extremely important when we're training students. And that's why we do a mindset lecture, especially at the beginning of the covert protected pistol class. And even back into it's a shorter class, mindset class, but in the intro to protected pistol, which is kind of our novice for people that are just getting started. But it's a pretty lengthy mindset class in the covert protected pistol 1, and we talk about all these things. And one of the things that I hit people up with is, before you become an armed citizen and strap a gun on and walk outside of the house, or have it in your house for home defense or whatever the case may be, is you need to ask yourself some moral and ethical questions of what are you willing to do, and what is the threat that you're going to encounter, because if have this preconceived notion that the bad guy or bad gal, but in this case, bad guy is, somebody that just got out of prison, that's all buffed up, bad tattoos and bad haircut, and that may or may not be the person that we encounter. What if it's a female? What if it's a pregnant female? What if it's a kid? And they still meet the preamble for means, intent, and ability, where we can justify deadly force. But what are you willing to do? Do you have the Constitution, if it's a 10-year-old kid, to protect yourself and protect the people that you care about? And so, we have to define these things. We have to ask ourselves these questions. And then we also have to draw that proverbial line in the sand. Now, granted, every situation is going to be a little bit different, but draw that proverbial line in the sand that if somebody crosses that, uh, I need to institute my plan of action, or my action plan, as I refer to it. And so, we need to be able to flip that switch, or be able to, and I think there's different levels of this, but I refer to it as getting in my combat bubble. So, uh, and it's a mental switch for me when I walk out the door. So I have good wide spectrum of awareness, panoramic vision, so I can actually look and see things and process information. Uh, and then if I get indicators of that there's going to be a threat and they cross a certain threshold, well, then I'm going to act. And I'm going to be, I say in the class, apex protector, because there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing as an armed citizen that is defensive in nature of what we're doing. The only thing defensive, in my opinion, is that somebody else picks the time and the place to mess with us. After that, we have to go into an offensive role within the confines of the law, and that preamble has to be met. But nobody ever won a fight defensively, except for, big militaries and things like that. But, we have to to kind of use, and I think I use it a little bit different, but to kind of quote Craig a little bit is when we're walking out around in the world, we're pretty much in an initiative deficient state. And, as far as the armed citizen, that initiative deficient state is that they don't choose the time and the place for something to happen. But after that happens, we have to do something to create opportunity and gain the initiative. And we have to be offensive and we have to take the fight to them, being the apex protector, apex predator. And I think that all goes back to and starts with having a good mindset and cultivating a good mindset through, the lecture that we give, continued reading, thinking about those questions, drawing that line in the sand, and then having a routine when you go out into the world. Like for me, when I get up in the morning, I let the dogs out and I do my thing. But when I'm getting ready to leave, my pants go on, my gun goes on. And I know you do this too, when you're getting ready to walk out the door, I got a safe place in the house. I do a practice draw stroke. I make sure that I have social ammo in the gun. There's one in the chamber and the magazine's full. I reverse engineer the draw stroke, looking it into my holster. And I've at least got 2 practices, and that's flips that mental switch that, hey, when I walk out this door, I have to have a relaxed but wide spectrum of awareness, and I could encounter trouble, and I might have to protect myself today. And so now I'm in that good frame of mind that, if certain parameters are met and they hit that line in the sand, well, now it's go time for me. Okay. And it's going to be different for everybody. And I think that in the mindset lecture, that's one thing that we address and have to cultivate, because that line's going to be different, what your willingness to do. But I tried to be very laid back. I'm out of the military now. Most of the problem sets that I encounter on a day-to-day basis are what we refer to as first world problems. So they really don't mean a whole lot. But if it's a problem that, I really have to address, like an example being, somebody goes after Callie. Well, then I'm going to go back into my old self, and she's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And I'm going to, end that threat. And, we're going to go home and then live our lives. And we'll do it all within the law, but.
Right.
Does that kind of tie it all in, what you were asking?
Yeah. And I couldn't fucking imagine the horrible day that person would have. Like, oh dear God. Yeah, that does. And the covert protective pistol.
Mm-hmm.
That's on my short list. You'll just wind up, be mowing your lawn, and you'll turn around and see me with a fucking suitcase by your back door, like, hi.
Love it. You got an open invitation. You know that.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And it does. It definitely begins to, and I think that it's really important to hear that from someone like you, because I think that, even me and we've been friends for a long time, actually, and I know people like the Craigs and the Garys and these people that have seen and done all sorts of things that I have not, and hopefully will never. If anything, maybe I could just take it as in an acting role or something, But it's like, well, do people like Shane Kerwin, do they think about things radically different than me, to the extent that I'm really just missing some big, huge, gigantic chunk? And so that's why these conversations are so important. And and also, like, when you said before, I don't remember when we were hanging out, you hear him meowing, hanging out, or during one of the classes, and you said about your mindset lecture, and I was like fucking, oh my God, I would love to hear your mindset lecture. And then the other thing is, playing those, like, for example, I call it playing the what ifs, and then I talk about like mental rehearsal.
Yeah.
And like you talking about those dry reps, going back to your holster, I have a very specific thing that I do. And when I check, chamber and all that in the magazine for the social bullets, as you say, call them, and my support equipment, all that. And then, like, for example, when I touch the doorknob, I think we had a conversation about, and I should do a little show about that. But regardless, I'll say, well, I'll save it for another show. Fuck it. I want to start doing more shows about prior to me going and stepping my foot out the door and breaking the threshold, as Joe Wire says, is the things that I'm doing to get myself into the state that I need to be in when I'm going out into public, which is essentially a bunch of various different things, variables that I cannot control. And having something that you do every single time. And I'll tell you, every single time my hand touches the doorknob, I run through this thing. And by the time I open the door and by the time I actually step out, we're probably at 10 to 12 seconds. And if somebody stands or sits across from me and says that they can't give up 10 to 12 seconds to have a shift in their focus and intensity and calm, then I'm like, well, then I can't help you. I mean, essentially, we don't have to talk any further, and that's fine. But I don't waste my time if you're unwilling to commit to that. So, and believe it or not, I've fucking had people that are like, I don't want to look at the world through those lenses, and I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's totally. At least at least you're being honest.
Yeah. No, and I think that honesty is important. I mean, I've had people the same thing, and I try to explain to them, but a lot of times you don't gain any traction with them because their mind is made up. But it's like, I don't want you to be paranoid. And I tell the students this all the time. I don't want you to be paranoid. I want you to be prepared. I said, I want you to go out and live your life, enjoy it, because we're only here for so long. And the other sick joke is that we don't know how long we're going to be here. So you might as well be present every day and present in what you do, and go and enjoy your life. Be prepared if something arises, and have confidence that you can handle any situation that comes up. But you don't have to be paranoid about it. Just pay attention to things. Have that relaxed awareness. See what's going on, and you can scale up and scale down. If you want to use Cooper's color codes of awareness, scale up and scale down in Cooper's color codes of awareness, which was also for action plans. That's fine. Or, just pay attention to what's going on, but go out and live your life. We can't just be paranoid all the time, but having routines, having a proper mindset is important, but some people don't want to do that. And, I'm happy when they're honest. Just like I've had people that say, well, if it was a 10-year-old kid that was that threat, they met the preamble and everything, I just don't think I can do it. That's a choice that you have to make. I said, right. I can't make it for you. I've made my choices, where's my proverbial line in the sand. You have to make your own. Just be honest about it, though, too.
Yeah, honesty is key.
Yep.
And I think that honesty has to go hand in hand with the mental and the mindset assessment, or else it's just bullshit.
Yep.
It's just bullshit,
Yep.
So that stuff's really interesting, and I appreciate that answer. And then kind of a little bit of a follow-up. Did you feel that over the course of your many deployments that you became calmer when things became crazy? Were you always like that? Was there, and this is kind of a multi-tiered question,
sure.
But was it, so I guess the calm factor one, the anger factor, like how did these what was the emotional role or things that you were, I guess, feeling during this stuff, or were you just empty of all emotion?
No, I don't think, the empty of emotion. No, that's not true. And, I know that there's been, they portray in movies and in books sometimes, that especially special operations soldiers, that they have no emotions. That's not true. We're probably more emotional than most people, but we also control it. So as far as going back to the chaos and control and that, I think, and again, this is self-assessment. So this is, from me, but I've always kind of perceived myself, and I think other people would agree with this for the most part, is that, I'm a pretty calm guy, across the board. Even when chaotic things are going on, I still tend to be fairly calm throughout it. And, because I look at it again, like I said, as a problem. And, one of the things that we have to continue to cultivate, but is to be able to critically think and then solve that problem. And so, if we look at it like a puzzle, and not let the chaos envelope us, take a breath and just think about what you're doing, it makes it more manageable. There's only so much that we can do. There's certain things that we can't impact at all or that we can't change. There's no sense in really worrying about them. Think about the things that you can actually impact and change, and then go to work on it. But yeah, I think like I noticed this with me throughout is, there'll be times where stressed, not bad stress, but stressed because things are chaotic. There's a lot of things going on. But I kind of like that. Like when there's nothing going on, I'm like, I get bored, I guess, for lack of a better term. I don't mind if there's 27 things going on and I've got deadlines or, this is going on. I think I work pretty well in it. I can control my emotions. I mean, now granted, I get angry just like everybody else or down or what have you. But I think I've got a pretty good control of those. And I've noticed that throughout, like in my military time, on deployments, when we had a lot of stuff going on, I would just, I'd take a breath. I would think about the situation. I would analyze it, and I would try to affect the things that I could affect. And, and I still try and do that now. Most of the time, if we get all worked up, during the chaos, it's not going to work out good for us. That chaos envelopes us, and then we start making poor decisions, or we just shut down and capitulate and freeze. We don't want that to happen. So step back, take a breath, look around, make a decision.
I was about to say that, but I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah. So
it's always on the tip of the
tongue. Man. But yeah, I think across the board, I've always been a pretty level-headed for most things. I look at the problem set and try and fix it, and just try not to get too worked up about it.
Yeah. I'm glad I asked you because I'm learning stuff.
Well, and I think it's part of, there's certain attributes that I think that we're born with also. We continue to cultivate them, and then, depending our upbringing and all that kind of helps mold and define where we go. And I think that one of the things that I was, probably born with is, the ability to stay calm most of the time, not get too upset or over emotional or whatever the case may be. And it's something then that I continued to cultivate, because as you get into those chaotic situations, like I said, it can overtake you. And so as you get inundated with that, it's just like the recent relevant realistic training. How do we overcome uncertainty, get confidence? Well, we keep going into those things that maybe are fearful or provide anxiety to us, and we build up that experiential base that now we've got that mental mind map that, hey, I've done this before, so,
right.
So when you're experiencing it, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm now comfortable here, and now I can process new information and I can make good choices.
Right.
As Callie would say, make good choices.
Okay, honey, see you. Make good choices.
Yep, I get it all the time.
So this was very curious to me. You said that you feel that a lot of the special forces, special operators you feel like a lot of them are, you guys are more emotional.
Yeah, I would say.
Why can you elaborate on that? Expound on that?
And maybe more and more emotional, isn't the proper, moniker for it. But I mean, I definitely think that we're in touch with our emotions. I think that where the difference is, and where I think that we are as emotional or more emotional or in touch with our emotions, however you want to phrase it, is where the difference is we just don't share them with other people. And so, I think that there's a difference between, being in touch with your emotions or being emotional or wearing your emotions on your sleeve. They're two different things. I think most operators, and, I use that for special operations, although there'd be some argument of who's operators or not, but, that operators, I think they're very self-aware of who they are aware of their emotions and when they need to come into play and when they don't. And then there's certain times where, they can let those things out. And it's, being in that safe space, whether it's with the team, sometimes with the family, it doesn't always, transfer over good there. There's a lot of wives that can say that, or argue that, but I think they're overall very self-aware of who they are and what's going on with them.
And a word that kind of popped into my head when you just started to answer that question, when you were kind of thinking about either emotional or whatnot as an adjective, maybe empathic, like very, just because, I mean, that would seem like and specifically, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe the special forces role where it's hearts and minds and you're going and you're going into, a foreign place and training the indigenous people how to fight for themselves. Wouldn't that kind of like, wouldn't people that are like super empaths kind of be attracted to that in the first place? Maybe because it's like, go kick the fucking bully's ass.
Yeah, well, I think there's part of that too is, I think, and again, I can speak for myself, I don't care for bullies. I would think a lot of SF guys are the same way, and it just kind of, gets rolled into not rolled into, but put, that's part of our role is to go and, deal with indigenous personnel, build rapport, train them, fight alongside them, and, go to whatever conflict it is. And so, in a sense, they're, we're training them and fighting with them to not be bullied by whomever it is. And so, I think on a grand scheme or a macro, level, if you will, I think that's a good way to put it, Jeff.
Cool. Well, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, now, if you want to get more in depth in it, we'd probably have to get the, the group psychologists and stuff.
Yeah, right.
They could really talk about.
Yeah, I mean, but that's some very interesting stuff, and there's other reasons. One, of course, because I want to know, I asked you, but also I want to show the audience, and I think it's really important, and that's why it's so wonderful to have you on here and being so honest and honestly like vulnerable, because fucking, I could say, oh, well, yeah, I'm SF and I'm just going to wear this, this steel thing on the outside, but we don't grow from that as private armed citizens. Right. So for people to hear, and honestly, for me to hear that everybody at the end of the day is essentially human. Well, then it's also, if Shane Kerwin, who is also a human, can fight and will protect himself and protect his loved ones, that's where I can then be like, well, fuck, I could do that too. Because he is, in my opinion, you are a hero of mine. And this is where you said like, oh, you got to raise your standards. No, well,
you got to understand now. You got to raise your standards, number one, and then and realize that I'm just like everybody else. I'm just a flawed human being that's trying to do good.
See, this is why I knew the show would be awesome. But yeah, I think that one of the important parts is that if our viewers, our viewership, me, my students, hear people being honest about this kind of stuff, then we could be like, well, fuck, I could do that. I not SF. I'm on too many meds. way too gay, and it was don't ask, don't tell. But that is a whole nother story. But that's super important and valuable.
Sure.
So yeah. So thank you. I'll end the therapy session because I have so many more questions about the your training and whatnot. So Personal Survival Solutions offers you of like when you go, dear viewers, to Shane's website, personalsurvivalsolutions.com. It is .com, correct?
Yep, it is.
People do weird shit now with .net. So I'm like, maybe it wasn't the .com wasn't fucking available, but all it does is fuck people up.
Oh, I know, yeah.
But personalsurvivalsolutions.com. Man, when I first went to it, a while back when you said that you'd open up a training company, because periodically Shane and I would reconnect, and this is over the course of nearly fucking like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, is so many course offerings. And I'm like, you offer pistol, you offer shotgun, you offer rifle, you offer, you know, and in each of these classes, you've got, it sounds like, and also from talking in private, you know, like the mindset lecture for pistol and everything, and also the long range stuff. And I'm like, my God, is this the curse of the Greek diner menu? But it's not. Everything like that we've had, every conversation that we've had, every you know, course description is outstanding. Like, these things make fucking sense, and I know they're going to be delivered in a just like a peerless way, you know, where, you know, I call myself now a Shane Kerwin personal survival solutions groupie. I want to take all the fucking classes. So tell us a little bit about your courseworks and stuff. And I'll try to just jot down things in my brain to steal.
Sure. So, you know, it started off when, you know, I first started a company, and like I said, the company kind of went through, it's morphed from what it originally was. So when I first started, you know, we looked at doing the medical first, and that was kind of where we were going to get in, and then with a little bit of pistol stuff, and I started doing a bunch of other jobs. You know, I had like 4 of them right when I got out of the gate and retired. And so then, you know, it took its second form here about 3 years ago. And that's when we did the logo change. Callie did the logo change and changed the website and that. And so we started off kind of, I don't want to say slow, but a little bit more low key, where I had a couple pistol classes, a couple rifle classes, and like 1 med class, just to kind of get going. And so I looked at the course descriptions and, you know, wrote those up, and the equipment list and all that. And then we got it on the website and we started doing the classes. And then as I was teaching, I would get through the first class and the second class, however many we had at the time. And I was like, there's so much more that I want to integrate into this system. Because like I said, what, you know, we try and do is develop an individual protective system around that person and their uniqueness. And so and that was always in the back of my mind as I started, that, hey, I want to really
that right there. Sorry for interrupting,
but
I guess it's my show. I'll do it anyway.
Sure.
What you just said could be like the motto or the slogan for the training company of itself. Find what, I'll have to rewind it later, but you said like, find what is useful and unique to the student and develop. I'm gonna have to watch that again because that was really good. I may have a new logo.
Good.
But awesome. So I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah. No. So, you know, I always had that in the back of my mind, and so as I started developing the first classes and we got through them after a couple times, I was like, there's more I want to teach, and it wasn't adding classes just to add classes to get, you know, revenue into the company. It was like, we've got more that we need to do. And so I developed, you know, more classes. And so now we're up to the point, and I don't even know what the number is. It's somewhere in like 24 or 25 classes that are on the website. The pistol series starts off with Introduction to Protective Pistol. And that one came on a little bit later because I wasn't opposed, but I didn't really want to do a like novice new shooter class. Because there's at least around by us, there's so many people that do them. You know, there's so many ranges that do them, and they do them well. And so I was like, I don't really want to get in that market. But as we were starting to get people in the Covert Protective Pistol 1, we were getting some of those novice people that just bought a gun, maybe had a holster, or it was a substandard holster, didn't have the equipment. And so we came up with the Intro to Protective Pistol. So that's the first one. And now, including that, we have 6 in the pistol series. You have Intro to Protected Pistol, and then you start the actual series, Covert Protected Pistol 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you have Covert Protected Pistol Applied Tactics. So as we progress through that system, or any of the systems really, the first classes kind of get you that base foundation. And one of the things that I believe is that in addition to teaching principles and concepts to meet an end state that's defined success for you in your unique situation, is there's really nothing advanced out there. It's just doing the basics really well. Maybe we do the basics, we do advanced application, but when it comes time to shoot, we still just do the basics. And that shooting part is easy, but it's the realistic context that is complicated. And so, if you can get that good foundation and then add realistic context as we go through, that's where that complexity comes in. And so we started doing that, and that's where we have those classes, but there's linkage to all of them. So it all makes sense as we go through the classes, or at least I think it makes sense. That's what people have told me. And then we kind of did the same thing with the rifle carbine. So, started off with a couple classes, and then it morphed into short range rifle carbine, and it's 1, 2, and 3. So that's within 50 yards and in. So those basic mechanics and learning how to run the rifles, and that's an important skill to have. But one of the things that I saw as I was looking at other trainers that were out there, and I'd been looking at this problem set for a while, is with the carbine, I noticed that the majority of the people were doing 25 yards and in. So basically pistol ranges with the rifle. And that's not wrong. Like I said, that's an important area for people to work if they're going to integrate that rifle system into their protective system. And for home defense and that, but it was like you can do so much more with this rifle carbine. And so we have those 3 classes, and then I came up with what we refer to as intermediate distance rifle carbine. So that goes 50 to 200. And then Scout Marksman, which rounds out the series, or I'm sorry, it's short range rifle carbine 1, 2, 3, and then Applied Tactics. So more realistic context. And then it goes into intermediate distance. And then we go into Scout Marksman, which Scout Marksman is 50 to 400. So we do everything from up close and like ECQC close with rifle work on out to 400 and everything in between, which I think gives people a very good, well-rounded system for rifle carbine if they choose to put that, apply that for their situations. And there's also commonality between the pistol stuff. Like I say, you can jump between classes. And I had one student tell me, he's like, this is very similar to your pistol class, and I'm in the rifle class. And I'm like, well, it's all the same.
I feel like the formula, when we have our formula, which ultimately as an instructor is our perspective, then it should be able to be like, oh, shotgun is very similar. It's just you're running a shotgun rather than a pistol rather than a rifle, yep. And you're running them at the distances with which they're, applicable.
Yep.
Kind of sounds like what you're talking about.
Yep. No, exactly. You know what I mean? And then those specific classes, we point out the nuances because there are with them. But then, yeah, we do. We've got a shotgun class. I can really, it's not up on the course catalog, but I do have 2 shotgun classes, and all of our classes, with a couple exceptions, are all an 8-hour day. So like the pistol series, it's 6 different 8-hour days that a lot of times we put them together on a weekend, or like the next time we have the rifle pistol short range and Applied Tactics, that's going to be 4 days lumped together. So Friday through a Monday. Then the rest of the series will be later on down the road. But so we have 1 shotgun. We started off with 1 medical class called Guardian Medical Essentials. And so that's built around the armed citizen and the system that we're trying to create. And that's an 8-hour class. And then I added a second Guardian Medical Essentials. So it's another 8-hour class. That's a 2-class series. We have the long range classes, which we've talked about, the intro, long range 1, long range 2. which my goal on those is, and I kind of go back historically to what some of the requirements were from the snipers back in World War II. So by the end of the 3 days, if you stay with us the whole time, what I want to see is the ability to hit a first round headshot out to 200. That's yards. And then a first round body hit out to 600. And if you remember in the class, we pretty much did that with everybody and got out beyond. So anything after that is just icing on the cake. But so, we teach that. And then we have a lesson lethal. So we do an OC pepper spray class. It's a 3-hour class. Generally, I put it right after the intro to protected pistol. And while I do the abbreviated mindset lecture in there, we also talk about, hey, these are the things I think you should integrate into your individual protective system. So, we talk about functional fitness. We talk about, mindset spectrum of awareness. We talk about managing unknown contacts, to use, Craig Douglas's and ShivWorks terminology. So shout out to them. Less than lethal engagement. So then the lethal options that are there, medical at the end, and all these things that build a comprehensive package. And then we have coursework throughout, that works that stuff in. And then I think the one thing I'm missing, and we didn't put it on the calendar this year because it's an extremely labor intensive class. Because for the most part, I teach all these myself. Because one of the things that we decided was that we would cap the class at 12 with a couple exceptions. But I can handle 12 on the line, and everybody still gets individual, attention, and that I would always be out there teaching. Because I started this company, for a reason, that I wanted to try and take that experiential base and give it to people, or impart it on to people as best as I could. And if I wasn't out there on the range teaching, what was the point of me doing the company? And so, but this class is called the 3-day arm protective measures. And it was a class that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And we've done it twice. And it was kind of based off of Kelly McCann's individual protective measures course that he did twice way back in the day. It was off of what he was doing with the State Department, and he did a couple 5-day courses. He does something, I believe, similar now. Actually, I think he's got a class going on right now that hits a lot of those things. I saw here recently, but that was kind of the genesis for this class. And Gomez and I had talked about it for a long time, and it just never came to fruition up until I had this company. And so the way that I looked at that class was one of two things: either people that have come and taken classes with us, like our teaching methodology, and want something a little bit more. But the real reason that I did it was for that armed citizen that they went out and they bought a gun. They only had a little bit of money, and they wanted to take a training class and be able to get a full system out of it, or a pretty complete system, and then be able to go practice it and have that and be able to protect themselves, because, they didn't have the ability, whether it was family, financial reasons or whatever, to take a whole bunch of training classes and try and figure it out. So in that class, we start out in the classroom. Now it's 3 really full days. We start at 8:00 on Friday morning, and we run to 5:00 Friday night. On Saturday, we go 8 in the morning till 6 at night. And then on Sunday, it's 8 in the morning till 5 again. And we start out in the classroom, and we do the mindset lecture, spectrum of awareness, building that individual protective system. And then we go into managing unknown contacts. We talk about it, and the verbal recording, and having a conversation with people. And then the lecture on the less than lethal, the OC spray, pepper spray. And then we go out to the range, and we work managing unknown contacts, getting your hands up, employing that verbal recording, creating distance, etc. As through muck. And then we work from, hey, what if muck doesn't work? And they hit that proverbial line in the sand. We give them some just real rudimentary how to default cover, like Craig and the ShivWorks guys teach. And I, give them credit for it. I asked Craig when I wanted to teach, his high pectoral index and default cover and things like that. And he was like, yeah, go ahead, just give credit, which is this, right thing to do. And so we teach default cover and then just a few strikes off of it, how to, once we're upright and we're still conscious, a palm, heel to the chin or, an elbow or something like that. Just some very rudimentary strikes because, not a lot of people, go and take combatives or jujitsu or, know how to fight. So we give them something that's really easy. They can practice just a little bit. And, we also tell them, hey, you got to practice this, and you're not going to be a ninja UFC fighter, by the end of this, but just enough that they'll have the ability to recall it when they're in that adrenalized state too, to create opportunity, to create space to access another tool. And then we do some sprays with OC, so integrating that in as we're doing our verbal recording and we're asking somebody to do something, telling them to do something, they're still not doing it. And then we demand it. As that demand is coming, we're either preemptively striking or we're hitting them with the OC. So we work through some practical exercise with that. And then we roll into some of the pistol stuff that we do. And so we take the essentials out of the pistol class and put them in there and we start working through that. And they end up getting about a full day of pistol work in that. But then we also break at different times and we do some scenario work. They get 2 scenarios through there. They get a 4-hour med block that's in there with a med scenario at the end. That's one of the 2. We do vehicle tactics and defense. So working inside and outside the vehicle, counter carjacking type of stuff. And then we do just a little bit of home defense and moving as a singleton through a structure. So if whatever reason you can't bunker up and you have to move to get between where the bad guy's coming into where you're living and get between them and where the people that you care about are. So how to move through a structure safely. And then they get another scenario. So that's kind of that all-encompassing 3-day arm protective measures.
Bruh, I'm your fucking AI.
Yeah, heck yeah, man.
I mean, yes. No, I mean, like that is what it's crazy. And I'm like, it makes me feel good because when I find that I've got a similar ideology and training perspective. Now, given long range was totally new, but
Sure.
I told everybody that, I went in really just being like an okay marksman. But in that AAR, I'm going to say how much I learned and bring up well, I made it into, I printed all the things out that Shane gave us for our pre-readings.
Yes.
An email from Callie, his wonderful, amazing wife. She sent this email and I printed them all out because I'm like, I can't read on my computer. It's too many shiny things. So do you know how many pages this turns out to be? Like each individual page that you flip is 141 pages.
Ooh.
That's amazing. And you're one of only 2 other instructors I know, John Murphy and Tom Givens give like handout things like this. But I'll talk more about that AAR. But yeah, what you're talking about pepper spray, about giving people essentially a total, because I break down what I call the personal protection paradigm as we need less lethal. So, and that includes like verbalization, de-escalation,
Sure.
Deterrence skills, combatives, are lethal means, whatever that may be. But in this case, we'll talk firearms, and then our medical. These are the things, like the 4-pointed triad, we'll say, of skills that are necessary for us to be successful in protecting ourselves under the widest modicum of circumstances,
Yeah.
And so what you're talking about in that class is exactly that. And I love that idea and the fact that you want to do it in a 3-day type format. Now, you mentioned something, which is why I threw my arms up and stuff and started going crazy and calling myself your AI is. So you said that you being the company in the face of the company, that it was going to be very labor intensive to do that from like an instructor perspective, you're saying?
Oh, just everything on it. So the 2 times that we did it.
You have done it before?
Yeah, we've done it.
Okay.
I believe it was twice. I think we did it twice. Um, it was really about a week prep work for me prior to. Actually, it was more than that because I was trying to get the pre-reads and the takeaways and all that. Because I think that one is just the articles and various things that are there are. I want to say it was 79 different articles that went out, and then however many pages it is, I have no idea. And
I wrote them at the bottom because I wanted to know.
Hey, yeah, I have no idea.
Love numbers and colors and stuff on paper.
Yeah, I dig it. But so that it's quite comprehensive. It's everything. There's corresponding articles for the whole thing. But yeah, so it's about a week for me to set up for it, and then and before the first one, I built some movable walls and various things for the home defense and moving through a structure. Various other redneck things, as I call them. And then doing the class, teaching it, going out there, skinning targets, moving things around, letting people take breaks, but not really getting a break, setting up the scenarios. And I did have on the first one, I think it was a good friend of mine who's an SF guy. He came down and he kind of helped out and just kind of kept eyes and AI'd a little bit. He was a medic too, so he was able to help out with the medical.
This is even stuff that, like, for example, today I've been teaching a very, very, very dear family friend of ours. She's 18 years old. She's about to go to college in 2 weeks. So I taught her muck. I taught her pepper spray. Today I was going to teach her 2 moves from the ground. So 2 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu moves. One is if somebody's mounted on top of your chest, because we all have seen fights. They just, people rain down blows and nobody knows how to get out from the bottom. And then also if you have someone in your guard, had one way to get away to create space and then like kick them, essentially up kick them in the face. Mm-hmm. And then the other, you hear him with fucking stuff back there?
Yeah, I do.
No, Ajax, I don't need any distractions. And then I'm going to teach her basic medical. And these are all like in 1 hour things, because that's about what her max, attention span is.
Sure.
Which she told me, I didn't tell her, but she's actually got a little bit more in her, so I can get 1 hour and 15. So the medical, and then so today I wound up teaching her, instead of the ground stuff, and again, just 2 moves, which are the highest percentage moves that you're going to, or the highest percentage positions you're going to get in or get someone in, i.e. guard, or somebody gets mounted on you. Mm-hmm. So I taught her a Craig thing, which is just the basic EWO of tip up or tip down strikes. Sure. And so like leading definitive weight shift, etc., to get some power. And so she was fucking ecstatic. And it was all about actually improvised weapons. And it's always framing this, again, it's like, well, you're talking about when you say it's not paranoid, it's prepared. Yep. And about how if we're looking at it, and this is what a lot of people think, because it's based out of ignorance. They haven't been exposed to anything but via the news, and just like when they look at gun nuts, etc. It's very much fear oriented, and paranoia, can be also, labeled like it can be labeled like paranoia. But it's like, look, and I told her about, because we've been talking a bunch about awareness, de-escalation, and deterrence ultimately. But we were talking about, and I actually went over the SEALs thing, the stop, look, listen, smell, etc. Basic is self-protection practices.
Sure.
And I said, when I sit down in a place, I am actually less worried. And my anxiety is lower, because I know that there's always a weapon within reach. And that may be this fucking toothbrush, which tip down or tip up, I can jab into someone's face. I know we want to know where the exits are. We want to know where the weapons are. Always have a weapon within reach, which once you know what you're looking for, you suddenly, the guy sitting next to me in the fucking college, if people even use pens anymore, he's got a pen, that's a weapon. I can use that to jab into the bad person's face, that is already in, we talked about satisfying, or as you said, what did you say? You said the preamble of means, intent, and ability. And then, where the fire extinguishers, I can use that as a weapon, which they're actually teaching now as part of the run, hide, fight. In schools, which is actually great that they're talking about fire extinguishers. If I'm prepared there, basically as a counter ambush, essentially ambush, hosing that
little of both,
right? I just want to be able to say ambush.
It's actually in the video because I do a little bit of contracting with the thing, and one of their active shooter subject matter experts. I take that term, that subject matter expert thing, because I don't think I've mastered anything yet. I do fairly well on certain things, but haven't mastered. I think that's a long path. But so one of the things on the active shooter and protocols lecture that I give when I'm there is the actual run, hide, fight video. A fire extinguisher is one of the things they grab when it's the fight part. So
it's in every fucking classroom, So that's what I'm thinking. But we need to. I have some things that suggestions or my ideas about what could be in the combatives. Just because it is hard to teach, and it's like figuring out. Like I had to think really, really, really hard, and one of them is going back to when I was teaching the fundamentals class for Daniel Gracie, who I had my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt under, and I was like, what do I teach them on the first night? And his advice was great: how to get out of mount.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. There's if you get someone in guard, and then like a couple of strikes and stuff, and it's going back, through the tactical Rolodex or whatever, what Nick Hughes was teaching, and especially if we're trying to be, keep our hands about us, because we think about boxers. Yeah. I mean, I boxed and you learn how to strike and everything, but they're going to the ring with everything super, super, super taped, wrists taped, and then fucking 16-ounce gloves over that are cushioning from any kind of breaks and fractures. So open hand strikes and elbows and stuff. But I would love to give you whatever input I could give you. And then of course come down in AI so I could see Tika and Waffles, your dogs.
Absolutely. And I'm very clear with people too when we do certain things like that, like the rudimentary combatives there. I'm like, yes, I've done combatives, I've done martial arts, I've done these things. I said that's not my forte as far as teaching goes. This is an introduction to it. So you have a couple tools, although I don't let we know about that term tools in your toolbox, but so you have a couple things that you can access under stress, but then you need to go make it more robust. Go see somebody that does this stuff all the time. And, if they're local here, I have a couple people that I, point them to, and it's just the same thing. Like when we do, during the pistol series or in that 3-day arm protective measure, cause we hit, high pectoral index shooting from extension to compression and back to extension. And then shooting the two is number one, I give credit, but I'm like, again, this is an introduction into this. I was like, there's a lot more that goes into this. Cause I said, it's a timing issue. You have to create opportunity when you're in that small space or that close space to be able to actually access that gun. And I said, this is just to kind of wet your whistle on it. If you want to really learn about this, go see Craig, go see the ShivWorks guys, Cecil and Larry, and
that's our job as I think good and well-rounded and honest instructors, is giving credit, like we were talking about, giving credit where credit's due, and also giving our students or our clients, what does Craig call them? His patrons? I forget. He has a word that he uses that isn't student. But anyway, is how to get, further study. Further study is so important. And you and I both know that you and I both don't have all the answers,
No.
So and getting people into like what I call, and I'm not the only one, I don't think, but like the practitioner. I think that Gary turned me on to that word is like the practitioner, people that can handle the gun. They can run the gun. They can de-escalate with verbals. They understand managing unknown contacts. They understand pepper spray and why it's so much fucking better than shooting people. and all those things into becoming the practitioner. And are we as trainers, as teachers, accommodating and facilitating and helping guide them in the direction where they can actually become a practitioner and the getting away from there's some scumbaggery where it's like they just want to take money, money. No, I want my fucking somebody that I trained. One of the high, and I'm gonna give it back over to you, and I'd like for you to take us out actually because we're approaching 2 hours.
Yep, I'm watching the time too.
Yeah, because the quote that you have on the back of the shirt, if you could give us that, or a quote that for a Shane Kerwinism, but we need to be, and this is all about this what this channel represents, which is bringing exposure. Like I said, I was going to expose you, Shane. You're like, what? Like you gave me this look like, oh, you gonna what?
I stopped doing that a while ago. It almost put me in jail. So
right about bringing the spotlight onto phenomenal instructors and then encouraging people take this fucking guy's class. There you go.
Yeah.
That could be a class.
That should be a t-shirt.
But Shane, we're at 1 hour and 50. I'll give you the last word, and then maybe you could take us out with that quote or another quote that you may like.
Yep. So, just a couple things. And we've mentioned her several times. I want to give a shout out to Callie. For those of you that don't know her, that's my wife. She is amazing. She really runs the company. She allows me to do what we do, but she does all the behind the scenes stuff, the articles, the emails, the graphic design, the website, everything. So very, very blessed to have her. So I want to give her a shout out. Jeff, I want to, thank you again for having me on the show, being my friend, being part of the tribe. Really appreciate you, man. And it's a big thing. The industry is saturated, as we know. All kinds of people have hung a shingle that's out there. But I hate to say this, but very few people, I think, are doing it well and doing it with the student's best interests at heart, because it's really about them and building that system and them being okay and being able to live their lives. So I think it's important for us to push students to other people, our patrons, or whatever moniker we want to use. And so, and a lot of people don't do that. So I'm very willing to say, hey, go train here, go train there, go see Craig, go up to Philly and see you, and then I think that's important. It helps us be good members of our community and this Marshall community that we're in. So you want to quote as we go out. So I'll give you two of them. One of them that I put in at the beginning of the mindset lecture on the main slide as it comes up. And he's buried in your hometown there. We walked past his grave, Benjamin Franklin. If we make ourselves sheeps, the wolves will eat us. And I think that is a very powerful quote that's there, because if we put our head in the sand, or if we try to ignore that there are bad people that are going to do bad things to good people, and if we just say, hey, I'm a good person, nobody would want to hurt me, we try to ignore it, that's not going to stop it from happening. And so along with that, and it's the quote it should be on the back of that shirt, and it's one that I come up with. It's you have to have a willingness to do whatever, you have to have a willingness to dedicate yourself to do whatever it takes to protect yourself, protect your family, and protect the people that you care about, and be a better member, or be a good member of your community. And I think that's kind of all encompassing is, we have to make those moral and ethical decisions. We have to sit down and think, hey, what am I willing to do? It's a big responsibility when we strap a firearm on and become an armed citizen and we go take training. You have a responsibility to yourself. You have a responsibility to your family and the people that you care about. And we have a responsibility to be a good member of our community, whatever that definition is. And we need to think about that. We need to get good training, and we need to be our own first responder. Because at the end of the day, when we dial 911, law enforcement, fire, and EMS don't materialize. There's going to be some time there. You are your own first responder. We have to take that seriously and be prepared. Not paranoid, but prepared.
Awesome. Well, this was thank you for coming on the show. And I would love to have you back, and we could do even more. I feel like we just it was the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, man.
Tremendous honor. You remain my hero, whether you like it or not. And I just love you, and I love Callie. And thank you again for coming. We'll see you on another episode of Practically Tactical coming soon. And wait for the after action report that I have of long range rifle. Intro 1 and 2.
Yes.
Good day.